Hello and welcome to making a simple motion tween. How these videos are going to work, and I mentioned this in the first sort of animate basics, but I'll mention it again. Most weeks, not all weeks, most weeks you're going to have these exercises. They're going to count for points, and these are technical exercises that allow us to sort of learn, again, some of the basics and animate. And for the most part, and I would say 3/4 of the time, I will include both a step-by-step and a video. Some weeks I will include just a video. Some weeks I will include just a step-by-step. As soon as I sort of feel that we are getting used to animate, I'm going to sort of loosen the reins a little bit and not give so much sort of overboard instruction in terms of how to get things done. I can get a sense usually via how well the exercises are going, how well the projects are going, how comfortable we are with animate. So again, for these first few weeks, you're going to have on D2L a very detailed step-by-step on how to get something done, as well as the video. I will follow my own step-by-steps and refer to, as you'll see in a minute, step 3 and step 4 and step 5, so that I'm kind of doing it exactly as you would do it. Okay, so let's head into this. The idea for this first exercise is we want to basically move something across the stage. It's pretty simple, but it allows us to sort of understand some of the basics of this layout. So, looking at my Making a Simple Motion Tween file, which is off screen here. You don't see it, but you're probably looking at it right now. It says Open Animate. Step 2, when Animate opens, it will give you a screen asking what type of file you would like. We want this ActionScript 3.0 file. Next thing it says is at the top where there are various menus, choose Insert New Symbol. So I'm going to go to Insert New Symbol. Now, when we insert new symbol, we have a few choices. First, we can name this symbol, and then where it says type, and this is step 6, it says make sure the drop-down menu type is set to graphic. If you click on this, you see a bunch of different types. Graphic is the most simple. In this case, we're going to be making a series of circles, and we're going to sort of be moving them across the stage. A graphic, again, most simple. A button is an interactive symbol, and a movie clip is a symbol that has its own timeline. They're a little more complicated, and we're going to get into those in a few weeks. Right now, we want the most simple one, and we want it to be a graphic. Step 5 says name the symbol green ball. So I'm going to double click on this and call this green ball. Okay. Step 6, I already went over. Make sure the drop-down menu is set to graphic. Okay. Now, it is very important to watch what happens when I click OK. Okay. Step 7 says you will leave the stage at this point when you click OK and enter the library where you will create this graphic. Okay, so when I click OK, watch this white area. And this is, a lot of people get confused with this, and you need to sort of pay attention to where you are. So I'm going to click OK, and I go onto this sort of big, endless sort of sketch pad. You'll note up here on the top right, or sorry, top left, we have scene 1, and then we have green ball. Right here, it's showing us we're inside green ball. Imagine this as we're inside the library, and we're inside the area in which we can sort of sketch our green ball. If I click back to this scene 1, now I'm in this finite area where the action happens. If I want to go back to that, I'm going to go to my library and hit green ball here. Okay, so it's very important. I can't tell you how many times I see people do what you should be doing on the stage inside this library or inside this symbol. That's not where we want much to happen, except for the sort of drawing of this symbol. Okay, so pay attention to where you are. Right now I'm inside green ball. Step 8, it says click the stroke color box and choose the white box with the red stripe through it. So this is the stroke color over here. Most of the times when you draw objects, you're drawing what's called a stroke and fill color to that. So I'm going to click on this, and then over here on the far right is this no stroke color. We don't want a stroke color. It says also click on the fill color box at the bottom and choose a shade of green. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to choose green. Okay. I mentioned this in the Animate Basics, but we always, generally speaking, have a stroke and fill. A lot of times you want the stroke to be off because you don't necessarily want that outline around a drawn item. Next, step 9, it says choose the oval tool in the toolbox right here. And it says click, hold, and draw a circle. If you want a perfect circle, which I do, and I think you should too, we need to hold down Shift on our keyboard. Maybe you're hearing me hold down Shift. I'm going to click, hold, and draw a little green ball. It says use the selection tool, which is the black arrow. This is a very important tool, and this allows us to basically select and move things around. Okay? And we want to position it in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll sort of see this little hash mark here in the middle. Generally speaking, you want to sort of position graphics right on that hash mark. It makes sort of animating later a little bit easier. Okay, so we've drawn the green ball, we have positioned it, and we've made it a sort of mid-size there. Okay, remember, I'm just going to stress this again. We are inside the library. We are inside our graphic called green ball. You'll see if I zoom in and zoom out, there's no stage. It doesn't sort of ever end. Okay, so this is this big area in which we can draw. It's just sort of the big sketch pad. It's the library. This next part 2, creating the tween, is where we need to go back to our scene. So I'm going to click on scene 1. Now we have this finite area. I actually don't see my green ball anymore because it's just sort of waiting over here in the library for something to happen. Okay. The idea is that we have these symbols over here. In this case, it's just going to be graphics, and we can sort of use them as many times as we want. That's a good thing about Animate. We don't have to sort of draw everything every time we want to use it. We can reuse things. So part 2, creating the tween. Says click on the scene 1 on the top left. So I'll redo that again. I was right here, and I'm going to click on that scene 1. Now I'm on the stage here. It says take the graphic from the library called green ball and drop it onto the stage bottom left. And what I mean by that is I'm using a mouse, and I'm going to click, hold, and you'll see the little plus sign. It sort of says, oh, I'm sort of holding on to something. I'm grabbing something, and I'm going to drop it here. Okay, I can use that same black selection tool, which is this kind of the tool that I'm always on if I'm moving things around. And I want to sort of position this thing sort of bottom left. Okay. Note that you can use, and you can probably see that moving, you can use the arrows on your keyboard to sort of do really finite positioning. But I just want that thing bottom left. Okay. Step 3 says move up to frame 60 in the timeline and click on that frame. So here's frame 60. Next it says choose, and this is step 4, choose insert timeline frame. So I'm going to go to insert timeline frame. Now, what I've done there, and you saw this you potentially saw this red playhead move all the way up to there. I've basically extended this movie up to 60 frames. A quick word about how sort of these frames, what they mean in relation to time. I'm going to quickly go to modified document. This isn't in the step-by-step, but you're going to see a frame rate here. Frame rate is 24 frames per second. So every 24 frames is a second. Don't mess with this frame rate. That's sort of standard. There's really no reason to mess with this. We're going to leave it as such. When you're thinking about making movies and when you get into your projects, you have to pay attention to how many frames does something take up. A very common mistake is that people do things quite quickly. They think, well, I'll animate up to here, and then I'll do that, and I'll do that. And what they don't realize is everything that they thought was sort of happening over a good amount of time was happening in a second or a second and a half. So if I'm at 24 frames per second, I'm up to 60 frames here. I'm at about 2.5 seconds. Okay, so that's a fine amount of time to sort of see a ball animate across the stage. So going back to my step-by-step, I've inserted that frame up to frame 60 or on frame 60. Step 5 says choose any frame in between frame 1 and frame 60 and click on that frame. Okay. Now, what we're about to do is create what's called a tween. A tween is sort of a specific word that is in relation to animation and in particular to animate, and what it's sort of short for is in between. So these are the in-between frames. Back in the day, you had, and when I say back in the day, I mean sort of original Disney films, you had to draw these things. You drew what was called cells. And often the sort of well-known animators would draw the very important cells, which were sort of when Mickey Mouse was maybe standing still for a few seconds. But when Mickey Mouse went to walk, across a field or whatever, they needed all these cells to sort of show Mickey Mouse sort of animating. Those in-between cells weren't seen for very long on the stage, so lesser-known artists would draw those cells. And animate makes up these in-between cells, and it's called a motion tween. And it's also sort of just called a tween. So it says click on any frame between 1 and 60, and then step 6 says choose insert motion tween. You're going to watch the timeline, and it's going to turn blue. That indicates a motion tween. Okay, that's very important. You're going to sort of get used to the visual of that. Next, it says click directly on frame 60. I'm going to do this. And it says with the black arrow, the selection tool, grab the green ball and move that to the top right of the stage. So I'm going to grab this while I'm on frame 60, and I want you to watch what happens here. I'm going to do that. A few things happened. Two things happened. One, we got this. This is our path. This allows a sort of visual indication that we've moved from one place to another. And then up here, you get this little diamond. It might be hard to see. You'll see it on your file, which indicates that tween. And what it indicates is another sort of position in this motion tween. Okay. Now, just as an aside, my videos are limited to 15 minutes, so I'm gonna quickly sort of explain what happened here, and then we're gonna sort of do one other short video to finish this up. What we got here, what's called a tween frame, and it's similar to what's called a keyframe. And what it means is on this frame we stated, and you'll see this move back, we stated that the green ball is here. On this frame we stated that the green ball is there. Now, I inserted that motion tween already. We already had the indication that we wanted this thing to move. And if you move the playhead back and forth now, you'll see that it made up those tween frames. It made up the information in between. It said, if you're going from here to here in this amount of time, about halfway through, the ball should be about halfway through that journey. Okay, so we can already pull our playhead back and forth and see that tween happen. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right here because we only have a minute or two left, and I'm going to finish up our making a simple motion tween in a short second video.